Tracy Amigos, former football coaches turned insurance agents to talk about Texas Aggie football.
Reggie's trying to sell my wife a dog. We need no more dogs at our
Yeah, I tell you, I'm gonna get them DMs, man. I'm gonna do like she gonna get the same this one just like you got your other one, bro. I'm gonna be to see you. You gonna leave and go out of town. You gonna come home to a Frenchie, man.
Oh, I got 3 kids, and she's got a horse, and I'm like, we got enough mouths to feed. Quit bringing animals home.
My daughter asked me for a pony for her birthday this past birthday. I was like, I'll get you a dog, baby.
That is a good decision. Yeah.
Much better investment there. All right, guys. So welcome to Trace Amigos. This is episode 12, getting ready for the New Mexico game, and we are blessed and excited to have Reggie McNeal with us this morning. Thanks for jumping on, Reggie. Anybody that's followed A&M for any amount of time knows who he is and what he did while he was at A&M and the great things that he accomplished there. And man, the first thing I wanted to talk about, you came from Lufkin. I'm in Carthage. I'm in Hallsville. Mark's in Carthage. Seth is in Gilmer. So we're all big East Texas football guys. Love high school football in this part of the world. Me and Mark were blessed to have. Mark's been a part of 5 state championships while coaching at Carthage. I got to be a part of 1, and we got to play quite a bit at Lufkin. I took a butt chewing for a wide receiver down there one night. We had a quarterback who ended up playing at UTSA. He was a great quarterback, and we had 2 receivers that ended up playing at North Texas. They were really, really good. And one of them was 6'5", and our coach would always rip the quarterback about overthrowing a fade, and just, man, he'd be like, "What are you doing? He's 6'5", like, throw it short and let him go get it." Well, the next drive we go down there, he throws the fade short, and my receiver doesn't come back and fight for the ball, and so it gets picked. And so then he's ripping the poor quarterback about underthrowing the ball, and I just let him do his thing, and because I'm an assistant coach, I didn't want to step on any toes. When he finally got done, I said, "Hey, coach, I'm not trying to, tell you how to do your business or whatever, but that was really my receiver's fault. He was supposed to come back and fight for that ball, and he was but good grief, we got to complete that pass." So, but yeah, we've had some good times.
We have to figure it out some way.
Yeah,
I can tell you what was said on the defensive headsets is run the freaking ball.
Yep. Just run the ball, fellas.
Yeah. But, so man, talking about that 01 state championship, first of all, thank you a lot. I graduated from Austin Bowie, and Westlake was in our district, and we like to say that they were our rivals, but in reality, they beat the brakes off of us every stinking year. And you're back up for a while.
Kind of like us in Nacogdoches.
Yeah. Nac likes to say that Lufkin's a rival, but Lufkin, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
But your backup quarterback, Ty Branyan, actually came from same high school I was at. He was a couple years behind me there at Austin Bowie, but Ty was from there. But small world, and I'll let Seth talk about this a little bit more. But his wife was a cheerleader at Lufkin, not your senior year when y'all won state, but your junior year.
Yeah. She's quiet, and her name's Lexi Epley, but probably don't know her. I know that's a bigger school. I'm from a 3A school, so everybody knows everybody. So she went and watched you play, and I remember her saying, I remember him getting interceptions in the state championship game, and I was like, "What's he doing over there?" So did you play some defense in the state championship game or along the way? Okay.
So I played. The 3rd, 4th round game. Clinched the game with a pick 6 against Ulysses Trinity. Nice. Okay. Clinched the game with an interception. So my senior year, I think I had like 7 or 8 interceptions and I would just go in like on passing down like 2nd and 3rd down. And so I rarely had to come up and make tackles, but yes sir. Yeah. So I played baseball, so playing center field, it was I'm going to go track it. So the ball going there, I always felt like that's my ball. And my offensive line coach Early. So when I go to A&M, I was thinking about leaving when they fired Slocum and going to Miami. So Miami wanted me to play both ways. They wanted me to play receiver and DB and safety. And so after I decided to stay at A&M, Coach Early come talk to me. He was like, Reg, he said, man, I didn't want to tell you what to do. I wanted to let you make your own decisions. He said, but man, I always thought you should have went and played safety. He said, man, I've never seen a kid in my life track the ball like you did. He said, man, he said, you just had a knack for the ball. He said, the ball's in there, you was going to get it. You knew what the quarterback was thinking before they were throwing it. He was like, bro, I wanted to tell you that. He was like, but I just didn't want to get in it because I know you want to play quarterback. He said, but she be like, man, at safety though. He said, but I think you would have been, it just would have been a whole nother level back there.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, that was actually one of my questions I was going to ask you. But so tell me, I guess if you can, have you got to watch any of A&M lately, and kind of what do you see in Marcel Reed? Obviously, kid's got a ton of skills, but y'all have kind of a similar situation where he's playing when he's super young. You were a sophomore when you really started kind of owning that quarterback position. He's a redshirt freshman, so and kind of the same coaching situation where the coach that recruited him got let go, and now he's having to play for another coach. So I guess, what are you seeing from him and kind of how your situation went and kind of that whole deal?
So we'll go. So last week when we played South Carolina, and I only say this because I went through it. It's a tough coaching decision, but like I say this because I experienced it. Last week 2 weeks ago, I would have started Connor again. Because us as youngsters, we go out and have a game like that. And when I come in against Oklahoma, I actually, I had throws down the field. I was throwing the ball. Marcel only had the one deep one and maybe one other one. I say, so when we played Missouri my following week, after we had a hell of a game against Oklahoma, we go to play Missouri the next week, and with me being so young and having been exposed to a lot of defense, man, they start doing all type of stuff that I just was not ready for.
Yeah.
And they show one thing, they back out and throw it. I'm thinking they in man. Nope, they didn't went the zone, and I am totally confused. And that's what I saw last week when we played South Carolina with Marcel. And I'm telling all my boss, man, and I'm just saying this because I went through it. I know it's a tough decision as a coach, but man, if I was coaching, I'm putting Connor back in there because I know they are prepared for Reed. You're not going to run the ball. You're going to have to throw the ball to beat us. And if you can't do that, it's going to be a rough game. Connor, he got the more precision passing. He'll sit in the pocket. He can make them throws. He can move. He moved well enough in the pocket. So now if you have to go back to Marcel, all right, now we stuck with it. Now we're going to roll with it. This is what we're doing. But when Marcel came in against LSU, I would say we're gonna need Connor again before the season. If we want to go to where we want to go, we're gonna need Connor again.
Yeah.
Not taking nothing away from Marcel, because the offense that we're running, to me, it fits Marcel better. Because Colin he want to have a mobile quarterback and do all the RPO stuff. So the offense, it fits him a little better than it does Connor. So I understand that. But as far as and Connor haven't had a ton of experience on the field because he's been hurt, but he's seen a little more.
Yes.
And so I love the kid. I love his game, and like you say, he reminds me a lot of myself as a youngster, and I mean he's going to only get better. And I mean you see it.
And I think that's where I almost think that's kind of where Elko and Klein are at. Is they're like, look, I understand that Wigman may be more advanced on the passing side of things right now, but Reed fits that system so well, and the sky's the limit for that kid. I mean,
yes, sir.
I know last Saturday was rough on him, whatever, but it's one of those things we talked about it like in life. When you learn the most is when you face adversity, and I guarantee you that kid, if you put him down in front of that film, he could probably tell you every play what he should have done, what he could have done, and what he was seeing. And
I agree.
And it sucks to learn through losing. But it's almost like I feel like Elko and Klein have decided, hey, I know we're going to take our lumps a little bit because he's young and doesn't have the experience. But man, by this time next year, that kid's going to be lighting everybody up. And so,
yes, sir. We going in the right direction. You're right.
Yeah, but
I think we might have needed you, Reggie, to play some defense in that game to make some tackles. Offensive eligibility up, but you still got defensive eligibility, right? I mean,
yeah. I might trip somebody up now. I'm a for sure tackle. I'm not gonna just sit there and bulldoze, but I definitely trip you up.
you would want to tackle. Honestly, you couldn't pay me to try to tackle those two guys in the backfield for South Carolina.
Oh my goodness,
so
man!
Big
Yeah.
He come around there on those sweeps. Yeah, that's a big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, before I pass it off to Mark and Seth, my other question was, obviously, the world's totally different now than when you played, with the NIL and the transfer portal and all that. And you kind of mentioned it early on that Miami was trying to get you down there and those sort of things. Like, I guess because I mean, I don't even know how that looked thinking back on it back in the early 2000s. Like, you had a new coach come in. Obviously, people did transfer. It wasn't nearly as prevalent as it is now. But what schools did reach out to you, and like what made you stay with Fran at that point and stay? Was it just the fact that you knew you were going to be able to play quarterback, or was there other things that played into it? Yes, sir.
All right,
Gotcha.
man. So when I sat down with Slocum about 2 hours. So it wasn't. I didn't talk to nobody else because I wanted. It was when I was coming out. It was Miami, Florida State, and A&M. I was a big Texas fan, but I didn't like the way they did Applewhite before. So Applewhite was there, and then and so I just felt like that situation wouldn't have panned out good for me if I went there. So. Coming out, it was Miami, Florida State, A&M. My mom don't fly. That's why I stayed in Texas. She wanted to watch me play. She had always watched me play, and I stayed in Texas for her.
Well, thank you, Mama.
Yeah.
So, so when I come out, after Fran get hired, I call Outlaw. Hey, call Miami. Shit, I'm not staying in his offense. Brody Croyle had called me from Alabama at the time, and he was like, "Good luck with that offense and good luck with Francione." And so I called Outlaw and say, "I don't want to play in his offense. I don't want to play. This not gonna be for me." And sat down with Slocum for about 2 hours, man, and he convinced me to stay at A&M for as far as afterlife with football. And that's how I ended up staying at A&M.
Well, thank goodness
Yes,
for Slocum and your mama,
Yes,
because
sir.
I can tell you my college
Yes,
years
sir.
would have been way different if I didn't get to watch you playing back there behind center. I can promise you that. Me and Seth are kind of the same age. Mark's a little older.
Dude.
He was coaching when you were playing. Sorry, Mark.
He said, more like, hold on, man.
It's just wisdom. It's just wisdom.
Yeah, that's it.
There you go. All right. Well, Seth, you wanna ask Mr. McNeal some questions since we got him on here?
So you kind of already answered them a little bit. I was wanting to during the recruitment, you were a 5-star rated guy. I know, and you chose A&M, but were there any visits that blew you away outside of A&M where you were like, I'm guessing Miami and Florida State?
Yeah, so Florida State, I was always a Bowden fan, and he was the first one to offer me out of 9th grade. So my 9th grade year, he offered me, and that was my first offer. And so I was always a Florida State and Bobby Bowden fan. Yeah, Miami was the visit that, and I didn't even take an official because I had already committed. And so I just went to Miami, and yeah, Miami was Miami.
I got you.
And yeah. And then at the time, you think they have, it's studs all over the field.
Yeah.
Taylor, Moss, you got, what I'm saying, it's
they're
Road.
loaded.
You have everybody, Willis Brigade. And it's, so they just coming off the national championship, so it was one of them situations where, I might want to play here. But like I say, my mom played a big role in it. She played a monumental role in it.
Got you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So you said that after your freshman year, that was Miami. That was really targeting you to try to get you to transfer.
Florida.
Oh, it's Florida.
From college, yeah. So from
Yeah.
and when I after my freshman year in college, it was Miami, and so shit.
High school.
But I pretty much initiated with with Outlaw.
I got
So
you.
soon as we hired Fran, I talked because me and Outlaw, I had a hell of a relationship with Outlaw, and so soon as Fran was hired, Brody Croy called me. I called Outlaw. Like, man, call Coach them in Miami and tell him I need. And they were like, shit, we got a scholarship for him. You know, I would have the red shirt that 1 year, and I
Sure.
had my red shirt year available, and the next 3 years I was gonna be playing. And so yeah, we had already talked it out, and they were ready for me to get down there. Then I sat down with Slocum, and Slocum is, I was a huge fan of Slocum. You know what I'm saying? I still am. So that's
Yeah,
Happy belated birthday. He just turned 80, right? What was his? I
sure
can't
right.
remember.
Sure, I got to reach out to him, man. Oh man.
Yeah.
I
Last
think
last week, I think. Yeah.
I
Yep.
don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything negative about him because I just think he's so genuine. Like he's just a genuinely good
Agreed.
dude and wants what's best for his guys. I think me and Seth talked about when we were down there me and Seth went to the LSU game a couple weeks ago, and I think we talked about it like, man, what could Slocum have accomplished if they would have spent the money that they're spending now when he was there? Because he was still recruiting at a top level, and he had him going into a 3A high school locker room. I mean, it was awful. And so if they'd have gave him the resource, and he kept begging for him, but anyway, that's
You think too, man. So my freshman year, we had AP coming in.
Yeah.
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 You gonna have me and we're gonna have me and Adrian. That's gonna be in our backfield. That's it. And I'm just talking about two pieces. I'm not even talking about everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
That's
Slugger
crazy.
go, and there go AP.
Right.
That's crazy. Yeah, think about that. That would have been nuts. But Mark, you got any questions for the man?
So I'm just curious, Reggie. Like since you did go to A&M and over the other schools, and because of RC and your mom, you know, what is life like being an Aggie? Like since you've gotten out, you know, how is that? How has being an Aggie affected kind of your postgraduate life? And since you've gotten out, what's being an Aggie now?
So being an Aggie now, man. So I do a lot of stuff I do a little bit of real estate work. I got one of my closest buddies right here that's a lawyer of mine. That's who I'm in my dog business with. And then we're also about to start a sports agency. And so it took a while for it to get going. And I was kind of bitter towards A&M for a while because I always felt like the resources that I was told that would be there for me wasn't there.
Okay.
And then as I kept, you know, I get a little, now my son started to get involved, and you know, I'm out a little more. You know, I was always, I'm not one of those people that like to be out and be in the public eye and all that type of stuff. I'm not. But now that I have to do it a little more, and so now it's starting to turn for my side now, as far as being able to have people that I can rely on, and you know what I'm saying, that reach out to them, just like doing podcasts like this. I mean, it was scarce, and you know it'll be hit or miss, but now, I mean, like I say, it's taking a turn for the better. And yeah, shit, now everything that I was told and harped on before when I got ready to leave A&M, it's happening a little more now. And as far as ball players, I didn't know if A&M really if you didn't go to the league or have a long career, the back end of it, they didn't, it wasn't a helpful hand for you. If you didn't have that big name like a Vaughn or Mike Evans, you know what I'm saying? Like, my name rings at school, you know what I'm saying? So it's you know, they NFL heads with long, great careers. And so, but no, now, man, it's like I say, I'm a solid guy, man. I speak to people well. I don't do bad business with people, and it's put me in position to be around and be able to make this thing happen. And like I said, we rolling now. and yeah, it's now
That's
and then
awesome.
we winning in football too. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, and I got one more thing. So I was told by a friend of mine who's a coach. He said, I heard that you didn't just play quarterback and safety; that you might have been a punter at one point. In fact, a coaching friend of mine said you were the best high school punter he's ever seen.
So I had to punt when I was young. So I didn't punt. I don't think I ever had to punt in high school.
No,
Did I? I don't
I,
think so.
you might have when you
No,
were
I
young.
don't think. Oh, yeah, I know I punted in the 8th grade. So I punted in the 8th grade for sure. So you got to think, coach. I did the punt, pass, and kick back in the day, and
Okay.
so I could kick, and so I didn't play soccer, but I like soccer. So I like sports. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
we did it all. Yeah.
And you're probably like me because we're about the same age. Soccer wasn't what soccer is now. When we
No,
were
not
kids,
not to
soccer was
us.
kind of the sport that the kids that couldn't make it in football or basketball or baseball played. Now,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I know my daughter's in high school now, and some of the girls that she plays volleyball with that are the best athletes on the volleyball team, they go straight to soccer after volleyball.
Straight
And
to
I'm like,
soccer.
man, that has
Yes, sir.
definitely changed from
Yeah.
when I was a kid. That's for
Sure
sure.
has.
Yes, sir. No, I agree with you.
Well, man, I sure appreciate you jumping on here, and
Yes,
wish you
sir.
nothing but the
Anytime.
best on the puppies. I know, like I said, I hadn't told my kids what you did because I do well to take my kids lunch every now and again at school. I'm not flying to San Francisco to get my daughter a dog, so I don't need to be put on that kind. Like the levels are a little different. So,
Look,
uh,
you don't have to now. We right here in Houston, so we good. I gotta take care of you. You don't have to get on the
there you
flight.
go. There you go. Well, man, I sure appreciate you jumping on here. I wish you nothing but the
Yes,
best
sir.
with that and the real estate, and like I said, just
Absolutely.
appreciate you for an old guy that used to love watching you play. I appreciate you sticking with A&M and loved watching you
Sir.
play back then, and appreciate you jumping on here. So,
Hey, anytime, man. Thank y'all for having me on.
all
Thank
right,
you,
thanks,
Reggie.
sir.
Man, he's
There
a
you
good dude.
go. Huh?
He's a good dude.
He's a good dude.
Yes.
He's good. And I got to say, Slocum must have sold him a hell of a sales package
Wow.
because
Wow.
he knew how bad that offense was for him, and he still stuck with it. Like that says a lot for him, and wanting to.
Yeah.
For obviously the relationship with his mom was huge, but that offense
Yep.
was awful for him. Can you imagine if he would have played in in a Klein offense? That would have been great for him because he still could
Unbelievable
run him,
fit.
but it wasn't an
Yeah.
optional run. It wasn't a every down getting you hit every daggum play.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I think Reggie was early on that style of quarterback that has become so
right.
popular now. He's just
That's
he was
right.
just
No
a
doubt.
little ahead of his time of a guy
Yeah.
that could run, and you're
That's
getting
right.
out of the old just pro style or running offenses and the mesh of the two. He's just ahead of his time
Yeah.
on a guy that could throw the football and run as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree.
In today's world, Reggie would be the most sought after recruit of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he was already a 5-star back then, but he would even be on
I mean,
a
him
different
and-
level in today's
That's right.
game for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, him and Vince Young were what 30 miles apart from each other, or well, maybe about 60 miles apart from each other, and they
Yeah.
were both 5-star, number one and number two dual rated or dual threat. Yeah, I mean, and those two guys would both flourish even more in the modern
No,
game. Both of them.
goodness,
would.
yeah. No
Well,
doubt.
and I'll say this about RC. So, do y'all remember Albert Connell, the receiver, played for the Redskins, played at A&M? He came out of Trinity Valley Community College. He was one of the guys we recruited when I was there, and he was going to go to Houston back when they ran the Chuck and Duck, and he was set to go with them, and he was about to sign with them. The Houston coaches were in the office, and we got a phone call from RC. He was about 30 miles outside of Athens, and he said, "Let me talk to him. Let me talk to him." So we held Albert in the office and didn't let him talk to the Houston coaches. Brought RC through the side door, and RC sat down and talked with him for about 45 minutes, and he was able to turn. And we just had to tell the Houston coaches, yeah, he's not coming today. He's not signing with Houston. And that was Jenkins that was at Houston back then, and boy, he was pissed. But RC had a great ability to recruit for A&M, and I'm glad to see the athletic department embrace RC a little bit and use him as that mechanism to bridge the gap between the glory days, the 80s and early 90s of Aggie football, and the new age, and I think Elko has figured that out too. And what a great thing, and what a great ambassador for A&M that R.C. Slocum.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Well, before we move on to getting ready for New Mexico, I just wanted to kind of go over, man. I've been watching the different talk shows and listening to podcasts, and they got about 6 teams that they feel like have a chance to win the SEC this year, and it's a little different because you don't have the East and the West and those sort of things. Seth, you want to pull that chart up for me? But I did a little chart, just kind of what these 6 teams' records are, what their SEC record are, what their wins against top 25 teams are, losses against top 25, and then if they have a loss outside the top 25, and then what do they have left. And, Tennessee's going to play Georgia this week. That's going to be an elimination game. So one of those two probably isn't going to be on this list starting next week. But if you look at Tennessee's record here, they're 8-1. That looks good. They do have a win against Alabama. But other than Alabama, they haven't played anybody in the top 25, period. They have a loss at Arkansas. Now, we played Arkansas tough. We know Arkansas can play tough. But this Georgia game's big. I will say, if they get past Georgia this week, they've got UTEP and Vandy left. They're probably on the paved road to Atlanta. But that's going to be a tough week this week. I went through and I wanted to break down also kind of what's the winning percentage of their opponents, because I think that's always a good key to determining if they've had tough schedule, easy schedule, whatnot. So their opponents' winning percentage is 44%. So they have a losing record as a whole. Only 3 of the 9 teams that they have played have a winning record. So it'll be curious to see what happens this week, because Georgia obviously coming off that tough loss at Ole Miss, so it'd be interesting to see what happens there. A&M, we know their stuff. They've had 2 good wins. They've had two losses that are tough. And we've got 3 games that are winnable, but we got to see if we can actually do it. Texas, this is the one that kills me. They've got no wins in the top 25. Early on they were hyping up, we beat Michigan at the big house, blah blah blah. Michigan's 5-5.
Yeah.
They may not be bowl eligible. I don't know what their record is or what they've got left, but they may not be bowl eligible. But they still got a cakewalk. I mean, I was hoping the Arkansas game was at least going to be a night game to give them, kind of a tough road game, but it's 11 a.m. kickoff, and then they've got Kentucky, and then they've got us. Now, I will tell you that depending on what time they play that A&M game, I'm hoping it's a night game for us, because they have not seen anything like what they're going to see when they walk into Kyle Field. That's going to be the first real road game at night with a loud, large crowd, and it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that. Georgia, you can see they've had 2 good wins. They've had 2 losses. And they've still got Tennessee this week. If they get past Tennessee, because of how everybody plays everybody, those last 2 weeks look pretty good. They could still get in there. Ole Miss.
Don't sleep on Georgia Tech, though.
Yeah, Georgia Tech. Yeah,
they got that King kid, right?
They do have the King kid. And I hope maybe he does it. I pull for the kid. He's from Longview. And then you got Ole Miss, who's got the 2 big top 25 wins, the loss to LSU. This is the key here. They lost to Kentucky, 3-6 Kentucky. And they've got Florida left with their 3rd-string quarterback, and they got Mississippi State. So those are probably two wins there. But this is the one that's hard for me to get past.
Don't count out the Egg Bowl, baby. That Egg Bowl always never.
Maybe Mississippi State's holding out.
Mississippi State ain't looking.
And then, to me, I talked to Seth about when you do this chart, man, Alabama's schedule is tough. You look at who they beat. They beat Georgia. They beat South Carolina. They beat Missouri, and they beat LSU. Yeah, they lost a close one to Tennessee in Knoxville. And the Vandy loss is not looking good. But Vandy, I think we would all agree, Vandy 2024 is not the Vandy of all the other years. So, and they've got the last 3 compared to what they've already faced is looking really good. But this is what killed me. So, Tennessee's winning percentage of their opponents, 44%. A&M's 59%. Texas, 52%. Georgia, 54%. Ole Miss, 52%. Alabama's is 68%.
Yeah.
They have by far the hardest schedule out of those 6 teams. Then you look at the winning percentage or winning records of the opponents. Tennessee only 3 of 9, A&M 6 of 9, Texas 4 of 9, Georgia 4 of 9, Ole Miss 5 of 9, Alabama 8 of 9 teams they play have a winning record.
Wow.
So I don't know how it's going to all shake out. It'll be interesting, and I don't know all the tiebreakers. But to me, I'm looking at Tennessee. It's going to be hard for me to believe they get past Georgia. Just looking at after breaking that down and seeing the opponent's winning percentage, and I just don't think Texas. This has got to be the easiest SEC record in the history of the SEC. So.
I'd just like to add that I've loved how some people outside of A&M have actually noticed it. There's been some coaches and athletic departments that have raised the concern with the SEC office that their first road SEC game ever in history was at Vanderbilt, and it wasn't until late October. And then their next only other road SEC game the next one is Arkansas, and then of course it gets 11 a.m. kick. And even the Michigan game, which is Michigan's bad, I guess it is what it is, that was an 11 a.m. kick as well, big noon kickoff. So, like you said, they haven't played at Death Valley at night. They haven't played at Tuscaloosa at night. Crap, they haven't played at South Carolina at night. That place is, I underrated how tough of a place that is to play at night. Anyway, yeah, and now people say, oh, well, the schedule flips next year, and it'll be, well, I don't care. This was a big year for, like, the trajectory going forward, and the SEC gave them a freaking gift. Yeah, and then Oklahoma, on the other hand, they said, you're tagging along, so we're going to stick it to you. But Texas, we're going to give them a gift. And
Oklahoma's raising their hand, saying, "Hello, how did I get this? Hello."
Florida's schedule's been brutal.
Yeah,
brutal.
Yeah. Yes. And it's been more brutal because starting quarterback goes down, Lagway goes down. Now this poor kid that transferred from Yale I'm sure he's a good kid and trying to do his best, but that's tough.
He was an Ivy League backup. So that's a little bit different than DJ Lagway.
Yes,
a little bit.
All right. Well, I just wanted to kind of give some people some reality. If you notice, a lot of people are not even wanting to discuss A&M after they lost to South Carolina. That still is only one loss in the SEC. Now, we've got Auburn, and amazingly, our game's at night. We get our game at Auburn at night. And we got Texas, so we've got 2 tough ones left in the SEC. But
I will say, we dug some text message I'm in. We dug in on some of the tiebreakers, and your opponent conference win percentage is a tiebreaker for whenever you wind up in a massive tie. So it does actually matter a little bit. And like in that situation, if we had that massive tie, Alabama would clearly be the 1 seed. Their conference opponent win percentage is super high as well. So
I will say, go ahead, Mark.
The way I see it, you're going to end up with several 2-loss teams and probably one 1-loss team. So one's going to go in, and we hope that, if the Aggies can win out, if they can pull that off, then they go in. And then you have all these 2-loss teams. Alabama's going to be that team because of those reasons that you're talking about.
Yep.
So
it's not, they definitely are, in my opinion. If you're looking at it without any bias, it's hard to say that Alabama doesn't deserve. If there's only one 2-loss team making it, they don't deserve it. It's hard to argue that.
Yeah.
I have to admit that if I'm picking a team to win the whole thing this year out of that group, Alabama's the team I would pick right now because it looks like their defense is starting to play. They've played for the same defensive system for decades. So it was taking some time, but like the defense looked pretty doggone good last week, and I was like, well, if the defense starts playing, that's going to be tough to beat with Milroe and Williams, and basically running the Wildcat, chunk it deep to Williams and let Milroe run, So anyway,
there you go. All right, well, let's move on to New Mexico. They're coming in at a sterling 2-7 record on the season. Or New Mexico State.
Quite a tough schedule in Conference USA. People like Jacksonville State, and
don't want to insult the Lobos. This is New Mexico State, not New Mexico, but New Mexico State coming in at 2-7. They base out of that lovely 3-3-5 that me and Mark love so much.
We'll see the 4-2-5.
We will, yeah. I was going to say
Mexico tradition.
Yeah, they do roll to a 4-2-5. Probably more so against run-heavy teams, I would imagine. Their leading tackler is number 35, junior linebacker Tyler Martinez. As a team, they have 11 sacks on the year, led by senior defensive end Cale Edwards. They haven't forced very many turnovers. They've forced 5 turnovers on the year through 9 games. All of them are picks. They haven't had one fumble recovery. They've forced some fumbles, but they haven't actually been able to recover the fumbles. And their leading guy on the interceptions is sophomore safety Josiah Cox. He has 2. They're giving up 37 points a game, over 200 yards on the ground, and right about 245 through the air. So about 450 in total per game. And so, what I see is a good opportunity to get Daniel's confidence being our number 1 running back, and a opportunity also to let Reed build some confidence in the pass game heading into the last 2 games of the year. My hope is that these guys took the film and learned from it. We don't have time to sit around, pout, and sulk and feel bad for ourselves. We got 3 games left, and they've had a great season so far. 7-2 is nothing to be ashamed of at this point, and you still you control your own destiny. When you get to November, if you can control your own destiny, you don't have to worry about hoping somebody else loses to help you out. You're sitting in a great spot. And so hopefully those kids understand that. I'm sure Elko's been preaching it. I know Elko's hard on them, but I also know Elko is one of those that can get them to respond and feed that positive as well. Obviously you're not going to get to the level of coaching he gets to without understanding you got to play some good cop and some bad cop, and so I'm sure he's doing a good job of that. So, Seth, what are you seeing out of their defense?
Well, I decided. The defense to me, you broke it down, and I watched a little bit of their film, and I turned it off. And I said, "This is let's just focus on what A&M needs to do." I will say, I am glad.
Seth Brown will attest to this. There were many times when we played. I'm not going to mention any particular schools' names, but there were some schools we played when we were at Carthage that on Sunday when we came in to watch film, we'd watch about literally 15 minutes, and Scott would go, "Turn that crap on, turn the Cowboys game on, and get your practice schedules ready."
It really just becomes about you. So.
Matt, you say that, and I'm not going to mention which school, but there was a week this week that Carthage coaches didn't even work on Sunday. That's how bad their opponent was, but they were still able to score 51 points in the first half. So there you go.
It's about them. But yeah, that's it. So I turned it off, and I will say I am glad that this is no New Mexico State without Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers, former Aggie, and Jerry Kill. Because they all 3 went to Vanderbilt. And hold on to that thought about Jerry Kill. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, but I promise it'll all come together in the end. So this is my bye week once, and I literally copy and pasted this from the bye week we talked on 3 weeks ago because I didn't see a ton of it happen. And that's where I'm like, well, this hasn't really changed. I would love to see the more slow screens like that we've ran them. I think we average in about 1 a game, and I would really like to see that tick up to help a quarterback like Marcel out with an easy completion and get the rush off of him.
Like a slow wide receiver middle screen to Bussy.
Yes, that's what
Space, get some line out from them.
Yeah, we screened up a really good middle screen to the running back where it looked like the flat route and he came back. I like that, but like you said, I'd like to see a tight end screen, wide receiver screen, and our tight ends aren't going to take it to the house. So we're not chunking it to Harold Fannin from Bowling Green, but still just a chain mover. That's what screens don't have to go to the house. They just need to slow down the rush and move the chains a little bit. The max protect downfield passing game still looks out of sorts. There were times when I broke down the LSU film and the South Carolina film that there's really no chance for the quarterback to make and so I kind of broke this down into what do I think it is. I think part of it is quarterback coaching. I went back and watched the end zone of our LSU game and our South Carolina game, and watching our eyes, they come off of, like we pointed out, they come off of stuff faster than they should. They they don't seem to me like, it looks to me like they're trying to progress. And we talk about, when you really understand football, and this is anything in life, is when you can go and talk about the hows and the whys. And I feel like our quarterbacks are progressing the game on what and where. So they're in like level 1 progression. And it's week 10 at this point, and I'm a huge Colin Klein fan, but that's a problem to me, is that we're not seeing this, that the quarterbacks don't look like their how and why is developed yet on why they're progressing what they do. Go ahead.
Seth, do you think that that plays in some of the stuff that Reggie talked about when defenses start disguising looks and stuff, then it becomes
Yes.
a what where situation because they're having to process after the snap. Oh, it's changed, so now I have to think about where things are going to be, and they're just not there yet.
I think so. I really do. And I talk to, so it's amazing what a podcast does for you. I'm in some group messages now with people who have some good knowledge of the system, and they said that actually what sounds crazy is that Jimbo's system usually reduced it to a half field only. There wasn't a full field progression, and that Klein's system is a full field progression. So that is a little different. And I was told that it's modeled extensively after Ohio State's passing game. And so that's going to get to my next point. I think part of this is also protection and scheme. Our left guard versus South Carolina was better, but it was awful versus LSU. And I really think that played into the decision to play Marcel because our interior pass protection has been very subpar. And so Marcel has enough quick twitch to kind of erase that for us. I really think that is what led into the decision. Because I agree with Reggie about Connor giving us more in the passing game.
Well,
But at some point,
I think that's what we talked about the other day, Seth, when I was like, man, I am hoping Basantes gets back so we can slide Shanahan over to center.
Yep.
And I think that makes your line a whole lot better. Nothing against kid that plays center. I'm sure he's working hard, but he doesn't move well. And that's a problem. So
yeah, and so protection and scheme are part of it too. And that can speed your progress up. Like 1, 2, 3 versus 1, no, 2, now 3. Whenever you don't think you're going to have much time, but I think the biggest driving factor of this is personnel. And I'm not going to get into like deriding kids, but I will say that I think that our wide receiver room will look completely different in 2025. I don't think there will be a single kid playing wide receiver right now that will be playing major reps next year. I mean, some graduate. Jabre is out of eligibility, I'm pretty sure.
Except for Bussey.
But I do. What's that?
Except for Bussey, probably. I think
Bussey,
I
agree.
I think Bussey will be in that role.
Right, and if we flip enough, like, and this is I have another slide or two after this to kind of explain my thought process behind this, is that I do think if there's not enough brought in, Bussey will stay on offense. But I think if Elko has his way, I think Bussey will slide back to defense and be a return specialist because I think they see him as an NFL cornerback, talent wise. This is we joked about how Colin Klein has been at Kansas State, like turning misfit toys into a solid offense. We are misfit toys on offense right now. Like, this is the Oakland A's of offense. Like, they're squeezing quality out of this, and it's assembled out of spare parts, so to speak. The perimeter fast game, we struggled with this. We tried to do it post-bye week in the Mississippi State game. We threw 2 or 3 of them, and it was just disjointed. We didn't block it well, or the receiver caught it and turned back inside into it, and we almost just abandoned it for the LSU game and the South Carolina game. I don't remember us throwing one or very many, and I would love to see at least an attempt to do that in the New Mexico State game as well. And then the jet sweep still looks disjointed to me. We fumbled it on the exchange with Bussey, and that would have been it looked like it was about to be a big play. I don't even think they blocked it as a read on that. So that's where I'm confused as to how did that fumble even happen. So anyway, and to me, this offense needs, like, you saw what Georgia Tech just did to Miami with the jet sweep, right? Miami could not stop the run game. They knew Haynes King can't throw. You know what I mean? And that's an undefeated team. And they couldn't stop that run because of the misdirection that the jet sweep created and a quarterback that was willing to run downhill and put his – that was impressive to see them do that, bringing in that true freshman to throw the ball because Haynes' shoulder is messed up.
Thank you for putting the note on there. Me and you talked about it during the South Carolina game, I think, when they gave the jet sweep to Noah. Noah's got a lot of great qualities and a lot of things he can bring to this offense, but he is not your quick trigger, quick – guy that's going to stick his foot in the ground and get vertical or make a cut or.
It's gonna
And
have to
so,
be a big, easy edge for him.
yes,
Right.
He's gonna have
Yes,
to get
exactly.
going
yeah,
vertical.
Barber,
before-
Allen, Bussey, those are the kids that need to be getting the jet sweeps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll
I
say
like those
this.
low center of gravity guys.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Seth, I don't want to look ahead too far, but I know this. The misdirection stuff you're talking about, the ability to what misdirection on offense does is what we call splitting the defense in half. Your backside guys they can't look. You're not making the play on jet over there. You've got to hold here and fold, where you need to be. And that shuts down a little bit of pursuit. There's a team on our schedule. I'm not going to name any names. They might, I don't want to be politically incorrect. So there's a team on our schedule that has a good defense, but the one thing that I've seen that they're a little susceptible to is the misdirection and splitting their defense in half. If you can do that, you have a chance to put some stuff on them, and that's the one area where I think they're really susceptible is even against teams they've beaten, they've been hurt by that misdirection stuff. So we do need to get that
That's
going.
right. Yeah. Hey, I think that, especially with them basically just going forward with Marcel Reed, and obviously, like you said, like Klein's offense, it needs horizontal constraint on every play or horizontal stretch on every play. And the jet sweep is one of the best ways to get that. I mean, it does. It splits the defense, like you said, and that's a big deal. And then the other thing I wanted to see was more running backs ready because I don't think we can roll through the rest of the season with, who running back 1 and running back 2 was after Moss went down. I love E.J. Smith, and he's a great kid, but that guy needs to be a running back 3, pass protection. I mean, pass down only top back. So hopefully, I think the common or the most obvious, setup here is potentially to get Bussey involved and just take him straight to the backfield. But I will say it's a lot to ask for a freshman to play his third position of the season, in 9 games. So, but I do think that Bussey has the natural running ability to alleviate because if Amari got gassed in the South Carolina game, that was pretty obvious. And so if Bussey can just cut into that snap count for Amari and give us a real juice guy that's not passing down only, then in the aggregate, we can't replace Moss, but in the aggregate, we can get closer to replacing Moss. And I've actually heard some rumors on Twitter and stuff about Dalton Brooks, who played running back at high school level, and Javon Thomas, who also played running back at the high school level, getting some reps there as well. And man, it sounds like Dalton Brooks is a tremendous athlete.
Don't
I don't want Dalton to go. I know.
Look, here's the deal about
Thomas
Bussey.
over there.
You talk about Bussey and playing different roles. You do understand he was a Swiss Army knife at Timpson. This guy played everything. He played quarterback, he played back, he played some receiver, he played corner. That guy can do it. Just give him the reps.
Yeah. And I wanted to go to these slides here to talk about snap count data. We looked at this after I think about week 4 or game 4. And so this is after 9 games. And I broke it down by offense and defense this time, and I only counted players who have played about 70 snaps or more. So basically, who's gotten a full game of snaps in. And this is, you see the 2024 transfers are playing over 50% of the snaps for the defense. And so I put Maroon. Maroon is guys who Elko brought in. If they're a 2024 guy, even at the high school level, I count them as an Elko guy. They've only played in Elko's club locker room, right? The gray is the guys who were Jimbo's guys who are now Elko's guys. And so you see the defense seems to be a little ahead of the offense, and I think this is probably why. And I also think that from a perspective of when Elko and Klein and everybody came in last winter and spring, they were behind the 8 ball in the transfer portal. And so they had to attack what is the biggest weakness on this team, and it was easily the secondary, right? Like that was without a question. The receiver group, sure, there was a lot of potential in the receiver room. So I could see how they just had to go, if we're going to blitz something, it's going to be the DB room and defense, and then we'll make it through one more year with this offense. We've got guys in the receiver room who have potential. We've got bodies there, and they did add a few guys to the receiver room, but it wasn't. You could tell the DB room was where the concentrated effort was at, and that's showing up on this pie chart. If you go back to offense now, only a third of the snaps are being played by that 2024 transfer group. I expect that pie chart to look different next year because I do think this next year, because really and truly, whether we want to admit it or not, I don't care. The transfer portal stuff is going on right now. It's been going on for weeks. And last year at this time, Elko and Klein were coaching at different schools, so they were way behind in the transfer portal. Now they are going to be on schedule with the transfer portal. Holman Wiggins, the wide receiver coach, is on schedule with the transfer portal, where when a guy enters, they're going to know exactly. So many of those guys entered the transfer portal last year. They know exactly where they're going before they even announce they're entering the transfer
Yeah.
portal. And now we have that going for us this offseason. And so I'm excited to see, because I'm going back to what I think, this part right here. I think personnel is about half responsible for our downfield passing issues. So if we can fix that personnel over the offseason, I think the offense next year could be way better. And I also would like to see, I know this sounds crazy, but what Jerry Kill did for Vanderbilt's offense, I may be hoping that maybe Klein can find somebody like that to for his passing game to help improve maybe some of the coaching on it and iron out some of the details there. I have a guy that I would love to bring, Coach Dickey, who didn't really get a shot under Jimbo. What a great retribution arc that would be for him to come back and help Klein polish up that passing game as in just an analyst role. That would be my vote right now. If I could lobby for a guy,
Yeah.
it would be
And
Dickey.
let me tell you something, Seth. So I know Daryl Dickey because of the North Texas connection. He came in at North Texas after my final year at North Texas. And let me just tell you something. Daryl Dickey is in the mold of an R.C. Slocum. He is a solid human being, and he's been around football for a long time. And he does know some of that stuff you're talking about. He ran the ball at North Texas because that's what we needed to do, and we had great running backs who led the nation in rushing. And he knows how to. He's a great offensive mind, but he's a superhuman. He's just a good guy.
Yeah, and he was calling the offenses at Memphis when they were setting the world on fire when the RPO was taking off. I mean, they were so innovative and out in front of that, and that's why whenever hearing hindsight how his time with Jimbo went is very frustrating. Because I really think that he was just hired and, look, we got this modern RPO guy, but I need you to just go up in the booth and tell me what coverage is on the last play.
Here's the knock on Jimbo. Jimbo would go get these guys like Daryl Dickey and the motorcycle guy at Arkansas, but he didn't even let them do what they do.
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't just let them turn them loose.
Yeah, and if he'd have I think if he'd have just let some of those guys do what they wanted to do, but Jimbo had his way of doing things, and so now he's not doing them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm going to lead the charge. Daryl Dickey for analyst. Daryl Dickey.
There you go. Well, let's turn to our predictions here for this game. So A&M's
going to talk about defense.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got us way off with all my slides. I apologize.
Sorry. Go.
I need to talk about New Mexico State's offense.
Tell us about that.
They're bad. They're really bad.
You got anything else you want to add, boss?
I mean, they can run the ball. They got a couple of good backs. They can't throw it. I mean, the forward pass is an anomaly to them right now, and they tried to find the right quarterback, and evidently they don't have it, and they don't got it. And so they're 132nd in passing offense. So not good. They'll run out of the split gun because they're going to try to run the ball. Jacksonville State dominated them up front. That's scary for them because I'm guessing A&M's D-line's a little better than Jacksonville State. Not to take anything away from Jacksonville State. They got some athletes, but we're a little bit better. So I think this game's going to get ugly early. And so for the Ags, they need to focus on tackling. We need to see sure solo tackles in this game. That's what I'm going to look for. When York triggers, and I want to see him tackle the back by himself. Now, he may just be limited by the fact that there might be two other guys there already. So it may not get a bunch of solo off it. But I want to see clean tackling in space. I want to see us run a stunt, come wide open, and the quarterback go down immediately. This guy's not going to be a guy that's going to try to put a move on it, but we've got to do that, and we need to stay healthy. So get them, dominate them, and stay healthy. This is the game you invite your girlfriend to if you're an Aggie because there's going to be a lot of scoring.
All right. So, Seth, you brought up Harold Fannin Jr. So I just had to look because you are talking about transfer portal and we could use another tight end. That kid is over 1,000 yards receiving on the year now with 6 touchdowns. and the closest receiver on Bowling Green to him is at 370. So, that kid.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid he's going to be transferring to the Philadelphia Eagles or something like
Yeah, he
that. I
could.
don't think
That kid,
he's
I
going to be
remember,
changing.
that kid was pretty special. But anyway,
Yeah,
so
he's something else.
going into predictions. So, like I said, we've only played New Mexico State one other time. It was 2016, and we beat them 52-10. And so, what I want to see this game, I pray. I haven't heard, hadn't seen anything. I pray that Basantis is maybe back this week. This would be a good game. Let him play maybe the first half and then set him the rest, so that we can kind of get the line back where hopefully I think everybody wants it to be. And then I think we already know they're gonna work Bussy into that backfield, and so I'd like to see Daniels be the guy, but I want to see Bussy get about 10 carries this game and get him kind of in the flow of that role as well. And so my player of the game, I'm going to go to it. I've went to this well multiple times and hadn't been successful, but I'm glutton for punishment. So my player of the game is going to be Bussy. I think he's going to have 50 yards rushing, 50 yards receiving, and 2 TDs. Wow. So, Mark, what you got?
So, like I said, this is what I call the get well game. We had them in high school football, where, like you said, Matt, where we watched the Cowboy game on Sundays and drew our cards and then talked about how we didn't want to show our kids the film because the kids see it too, and they know before they go in. It's hard to keep them focused. I think coming off the loss and how bitter that was, and what they've had to do is watching that on film. I think the Ags are not going to be in that mode of, oh my God, it's New Mexico State, and you turn the film on and you're just like, oh God. They won't be like that. I think they'll come out focused, ready to kind of get it going again. So I think that hurts New Mexico State's chances to get out of this game even easy. So, but it is a get well game. We need to get healthy. We need to get our mojo back before Auburn. But I think the players will be ready. And I think they'll play hard, and that really spells trouble for New Mexico State. So I think the Aggies dominate 55-7. I think they'll score late on those guys that come in late. And I think the player of the game, I'm going to go with Nick Scorton. I think he's going to have 4 sacks in this game. Just watching the film, and he's going to get us a strip sack. So.
Okay, so I forgot to put my prediction. I said we beat them 52-10 last time. I think the defense is going to come out with a chip on their shoulder because they've heard it for 2 weeks. And I think we beat them 52-3. I don't think we give up a touchdown.
Highly possible.
So, Seth, what you got, boss?
I'm going to go with 55-0, and if it's not close to that, I'm going to be pretty upset, or I'm going to be a little shaky going forward. I need the player of the game to be Marcel Reed, and I need it to be connecting on 2 to 3 plus 20-yard passes at least, because I just pulled some stats up. He is 4 of 24 on beyond 20-yard throws. Now, he has connected on a couple of those in the last few weeks, so we're trending up, but I don't, even if, once again, we may not connect against the Auburns or the Texas, but we need to put it on film that we are all of a sudden taking the top off of a defense, because
throw the
defense is going to stop the run.
Throw the dig.
Yeah,
It's open.
I will say this too. I need to see, and I should have put this on my slide. Doggone it. You always think of a good one you leave off, right? I need to see improvement in the scramble drill. Versus South Carolina, our scramble drill looked bad. I mean, there's no other way. Like, I'll say it. The one who looked pretty good on the scramble drill was the one you saw catch the ball the most, Jabri. Jabri looked okay, but everybody else looked like they don't exactly know what to do. Or, like, dang, that takes a lot of effort to stick my foot in the ground on this deep route and run back at the quarterback as fast as I can. Like, that's what really made me a little upset.
Ain't nobody told me. Exactly.
That's a good. Well, I'll tell you what. They've got 2 weeks to be told and rep it. You know what I mean? Because that is something in practice. We've set up entire pass holes dedicated to scramble drill. You know what I mean? When we've been bad at it and needed to address it, and then 1 out of every 3 in regular pass hole turns into a scramble drill, so that they don't just go to sleep. Oh, it's scramble drill every play.
Absolutely.
Oh no, you don't think it's going to be? Well, now it is.
Do the same thing on defense.
I hope that's. Yeah, exactly. And you can't just say, here are your scramble rules, go do it. You have to rep it. You have to rep it a lot because it's not natural. It's not natural to be on a 40 yards down the field on the post, stick your foot in the ground and sprint right back at the quarterback as hard as you can. That's tough to do. Like, and then you talk about that dig. What made me think of it was Noah was on that dig when we scrambled drilled right. He just kept running his dig across the field, just took himself completely out of the play. And I
Sit
was like,
down.
yeah, it's you have rules for a reason, and that's one of the things that the 2012 offenses with Johnny, they were a clinic on scramble drill. Like it
Yes.
was incredible how good they were at that. And you could tell that was something that Cliff had them work in practice. It's not something you just do naturally. So anyway, I would love to see that. So yes, I want to see 55-0. I need Marcel Reed to look like this guy's going to win a Heisman in 2025, and that will help us big time going forward. If he looks shaky or he looks kind of like what we saw the second half of South Carolina and the passing game looks disheveled, I am extremely concerned about Auburn and Texas being able to stop our running game. So I really need to see some Marcel Reed down the field like this cat's got it. Maybe. And this is a good game to do it in. So
This is a great game to do it in. So,
yeah.
all right, guys. Well, we're going to let you go. Hope you enjoyed having Reggie on here. I know I enjoyed it. I remember watching him back when I was in college. And, man, what an athlete he was. What a great quarterback he was. And really appreciate that. So,
Hey, Matt, I'd like, he talked about Coach Outlaw at Lufkin, and God, what a great coach he was. But I'll never forget a story I heard, so I won't verify the truth of it, but so Lufkin had a new assistant coach, young guy, and you get to Lufkin and there's like 900 athletes there and they're all good. And so Coach Outlaw asked him after about the second day of camp, and he's like, hey, how's your group look or whatever? And he's like, oh, they're good, and we got this one kid, and man, coach, he's just a really good kid. And they said, Outlaw looked at him and said, son, a good kid will get your butt beat. One of the funniest things I ever heard.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't matter at this point. We need a guy that can play.
yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for listening. This is Trace Amigos signing out. Gig 'em, and we'll see you next week.
Tracy Amigos, former football coaches turned insurance agents, talk about Texas Aggie football.